The name USS Enterprise is probably the first thing most people would associate with Star Trek, and over the years, we've seen many ships of the iconic name appear throughout the history of the Federation. Nearly as iconic as the ships themselves are the people who command them, the many captains of the Starship Enterprise. In this video, we'll be running down the list of all the captains of the Enterprise, from Captain Archer to Captain 7 of 9. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host, Captain Jack. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. We're enjoying making these Star Trek videos, and we hope you are too. If you want to support their development, check out our Patreon via the link below. Any support is greatly appreciated. As always, please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, because if you're talking about Star Trek, then we want to of course hear about it. While you're watching, comment below which Enterprise captain you would prefer to serve under. Okay? Engage. The story of the Starship Enterprise began in the mid-22nd century with the launch of the Enterprise NX-01, the United Earth Starfleet's first Warp-5 capable starship. The NX-01 was commanded by Captain Jonathan Archer, who is the first captain we'll be talking about today. Jonathan Archer was born in the year 2112 in upstate New York, although he lived most of his early life in San Francisco, and from a young age he dreamed of captaining a starship. After an accomplished career as a test pilot, Archer was appointed as the inaugural captain of the Enterprise NX-01, which launched in April of 2151. Over the course of the next few years, Captain Archer oversaw a number of vital missions from the bridge of the Enterprise. He and his crew paved the way for humanity to take to the stars and join the intergalactic community, making first contact with numerous species and discovering many planets. Archer initiated contact with friendly and unfriendly powers alike, from the Tellarites and the Andorians to the Klingons and the Romulans. Archer of the Enterprise also played a vital role in defending Earth from the many threats it faced in the 22nd century. He saved Earth from the Xindi, destroying their planet killer before it could destroy Earth, and Archer also played a role in the Temporal Cold War, foiling the schemes of several belligerents that attempted to meddle in human history. But perhaps Archer's most important achievement was the vital role he played in the founding of the United Federation of Planets. As captain of Enterprise, he forged ties between humanity and the Vulcans, Andorians and Tellarites, stopping Romulan plots to drive the four apart. This led to the formation of a coalition of planets, the predecessor to the Federation. Archer also prevented the xenophobic human group, Terra Prime, from sabotaging this process, and Enterprise later went on to fight in the Earth-Romulan War under Archer's command. At the end of the war in 2161, Enterprise was decommissioned, and Captain Archer's decade at the helm came to an end. He would go on to be an Admiral in the Federation's Starfleet and eventually President of the Federation, while the name Enterprise was eventually passed to a new vessel.
The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us.
Starfleet didn't commission another Enterprise until 2245, when the Constitution-class USS Enterprise, NCC 1701, was launched. Over the course of its history, this iconic starship went through a variety of captains, beginning with Captain Robert April. Born in 2195 in England, Captain April served as captain of the Enterprise for 5 years. Little is known about his command of the Enterprise, apart from he carried out numerous mercy missions over the years, including several that violated General Order 1. In 2250, after the completion of April's inaugural 5-year mission, he was promoted to the rank of Admiral. April went on to have a long career in the upper echelons of Starfleet, while he handed command of Enterprise to his first officer, Christopher Pike. Born in California in 2205, Christopher Pike served as captain of the Enterprise for over a decade, overseeing multiple 5-year missions during his tenure. Within just a few years of assuming command of the Enterprise, Captain Pike was recognised as one of Starfleet's most decorated officers. Despite this, the Enterprise, and Pike, was ordered to stay out of a Federation-Klingon war in 2257, as the ship was far away on a 5-year mission, and Starfleet wanted them to keep their distance as a contingency in case the war went badly. Following the end of the war, however, the Enterprise was recalled to deal with a different crisis: the appearance of red bursts all across the galaxy. Working in conjunction with the crew of the USS Discovery, Pike and the Enterprise crew resolved this crisis, and they defeated the rogue Section 31 AI, Control, in a battle near Kylie 279. Pike went on to serve as Enterprise captain for several more years, fighting several battles with the Gorn and discovering many new worlds, peoples, and phenomena. Pike served as captain of the Enterprise until 2262, when he handed command to James T. Kirk and moved on to other duties, before being forced into an early retirement after suffering critical injuries during an accident aboard a cadet starship in 2266.
The future's what we make it.
James T. Kirk was born in 2233 in Iowa, the son of Starfleet Captain George Kirk. Jim followed his father's footsteps into joining Starfleet, and he rose rapidly through the ranks, becoming the youngest first officer in Starfleet. He took command of the USS Enterprise in 2262, and he would oversee multiple important missions with it, much as Captain Pike had. Kirk began his own 5-year mission as Enterprise Captain in 2265. Kirk's list of achievements as Captain of the Enterprise was quite long. He discovered countless worlds, fought with many of the Federation's enemies, and even confronted the horrors of the Mirror Universe. In 2266, Kirk led the Enterprise to victory against a Romulan vessel that carried out a string of attacks against Starfleet bases along the neutral zone, and he also forwarded a number of Klingon plots aimed at destabilizing or weakening the Federation. In 2270, following the conclusion of the Enterprise 5-year mission, Kirk and his crew returned to Federation space, where Kirk was promoted to Admiral. This took him out of the Enterprise captain's chair, a career change he would later deeply regret. Since Spock decided to return to Vulcan at around the same time, this left the Enterprise in the hands of Captain Will Decker. Decker was only around for 2.5 years, however, and the Enterprise spent 18 months of that time in dry dock, where it was completely overhauled as part of a Constitution II refit. In 2273, when the Enterprise was tasked with dealing with an unfathomable powerful intruder in Federation space, Admiral Kirk returned to command of the Enterprise, over Captain Decker's protests. The intruder, which was revealed to be the highly evolved Voyager probe, was ultimately rendered benign after Captain Decker merged with it. Following the end of this crisis, Kirk formally returned to command of the Enterprise, overseeing another 5-year mission before ceding command once again in the early 2280s, this time to Captain Spock. Spock's time as captain of the Enterprise was fairly brief, however. In 2284, Kirk once again took command at Spock's behest in order to face the returned Khan Noonien Singh. Kirk ultimately prevailed in his battle of wits with Khan. Khan's stolen ship, the Federation USS Reliant, was ultimately destroyed while the Enterprise escaped, albeit at the cost of Spock's life. A year later, however, it was revealed that Spock had transferred his Katra to Dr. McCoy, which could allow for him to be brought back to life if his body was recovered from the Genesis planet. To that end, Kirk and his former crew stole the USS Enterprise from space dock. The Enterprise was subsequently destroyed above the Genesis planet during a battle with a Klingon bird of prey, but Kirk and his crew were able to escape, steal the Klingon ship, and then recover Mr. Spock. Kirk was brought up on charges by Starfleet for the incident, but after Kirk and the crew of his stolen bird of prey saved Earth from the whale probe, most of these charges were dropped, and Kirk was simply demoted to captain. Kirk was then put in command of a new ship, the USS Enterprise-A. Kirk commanded the Enterprise-A for the next 7 years, encountering the god of Shakari and putting a stop to a plot to sabotage the Khitomer Conference, which eventually led to peace between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. After the Battle of Khitomer in 2293, in which the anti-peace conspirators were defeated, the Enterprise-A was decommissioned, and Captain Kirk finally retired.
I don't like to lose.
Then you never faced that situation. Faced death.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
But the Enterprise legacy lived on, and later in 2293, the Enterprise-B was launched. This new Excelsior-class Enterprise would be commanded by Captain John Harriman. Canon gives us next to nothing about Harriman's life and career, but according to the expanded media, he was born in 2259 and served as captain of the Enterprise for 18 years. Harriman's very first mission was marred by the loss of Captain Kirk in the Nexus, but his later career made up for it. He became one of Starfleet's most accomplished captains, both on standard missions and on secret assignments with Starfleet intelligence. In 2311, Harriman was involved in the Tomed incident, a Starfleet intelligent false flag plot that faked a Romulan attack on Federation colonies, with the ultimate aim of forcing the Romulans to walk back their plans for war with the Federation. The plot was successful, but several Romulans were killed in the process, and this led to Harriman to resign his commission. He passed command of the Enterprise-B to Captain Tamura Sulu, who commanded the ship until the early 2320s. Little is known about Sulu's time in command of the Enterprise, and even less is known about the last captain of the Enterprise-B, Captain Thomas Johnson Jr., under whose command the Enterprise and his whole crew apparently went missing in 2329. 3 years later, in 2332, a new USS Enterprise was launched, the Ambassador class NCC-1701-C. For most of its tenure, this ship was commanded by Captain Rachel Garrett, who would go on to be another of Starfleet's most respected captains. Born in 2294 in Indiana, Garrett took command of the Enterprise after its launch in 2332, and over the course of her command, the ship was involved in a number of battles. The most noteworthy of these was over Naranda 3 in 2344, in which, according to the history of text, Captain Garrett and the crew of the Enterprise sacrificed themselves to defend a Klingon colony from a Romulan surprise attack. The Enterprise was destroyed in the process, and Garrett was killed. Their sacrifice ended up strengthening the alliance between the Federation and the Klingons, as the Klingons saw Garrett and the Enterprise actions as highly honourable. In reality, the Enterprise wound up in a temporal rift that brought it forward in time to an alternate 2366, where Captain Garrett was killed before she and her crew could return to their proper time to engage the Romulans. Command fell to Lieutenant Richard Castillo, the ship's helmsman, who ultimately led the Enterprise back through the temporal rift. On his orders, the Enterprise-C sacrificed itself to save Naranda 3, and the timeline was corrected. It would be nearly 20 years before the launch of the next Enterprise, the NCC-1701D. The Galaxy-class Enterprise-D was launched in 2363, and it would be commanded by Captain Jean-Luc Picard, who would be renowned as one of Starfleet's most legendary officers in his time in command of the Enterprise-D. Born in 2305 in La Barre, France, Picard grew up in his family's vineyard before leaving to join Starfleet. His career in Starfleet was exemplary, and he became the youngest officer to achieve the rank of captain in 2333. He went on to serve for decades as captain of the Stargazer before being given command of the Enterprise-D. Picard served as a captain of the Enterprise-D for 8 years, repeatedly turning down promotions so that he could remain in command of the ship. In his time, he made first contact with 27 species, some friendly and some otherwise. These included Picard's successful deciphering of the Tamarinian language and Starfleet's first official encounters with the Ferengi and the Borg. Picard also made first contact with the highly omnipotent Q, who repeatedly showed up aboard of the Enterprise to test Picard and his crew. As captain of the Federation's flagship, Picard also participated in a number of battles, most infamously against the Borg. He commanded the Enterprise during Starfleet's first battle with the Borg in the J-25 system, as well as in several skirmishes with the Ferengi. Just prior to the Battle of Wolf 359, Picard was captured by the Borg and assimilated, becoming the Borg's commander during the subsequent battle with Starfleet. During Picard's brief stint as Locutus of Borg, command of the Enterprise fell to Commander William Riker, Picard's first officer, whose quick thinking led to Picard being recovered from the Borg, de-assimilated, and used to stop the Borg before they could attack Earth. Following this incident, Picard returned to command of the Enterprise-D. During Picard's time as captain of the Enterprise, a number of others temporarily assumed command of the ship while Picard was unavailable. Apart from the aforementioned First Officer Commander Will Riker, Dr. Beverly Crusher assumed command of the Enterprise during an engagement with the Borg in 2370. During this battle, Dr. Crusher successfully led the Enterprise crew in destroying a Borg vessel and recovering data from a renegade Borg planet. In 2369, a similar brief but more official shift in command occurred when Captain Picard was reassigned to an undercover mission on Celsius III, while Captain Edward Jellicoe was put in command of the Enterprise. Jellicoe, whose command style was much more rigid than Picard's, immediately clashed with many of the ship's crew, especially Commander Riker. However, Jellicoe did prove effective as the Enterprise's new captain. After Picard was captured by the Cardassians and the Enterprise was sent to rescue him, Jellicoe was able to force the Cardassians to release Picard and withdraw, with the help of Riker and several others in the crew. Following this incident, Jellicoe returned to his previous command, the USS Cairo, while Picard returned to command the Enterprise. Picard served as the captain of the D for a total of 8 years, before the ship was destroyed in 2371. That year, while Picard was off ship, and Commander Riker was in command, the ship fought in a battle with the Duras sisters over Viridian 3, and while the sisters were defeated, the Enterprise was crippled during the battle. Fortunately, most of the ship's crew were able to escape alive thanks to Commander Riker's leadership. Shortly thereafter, Picard stopped Dr. Tolian Soran from destroying the whole Viridian system, saving the 200 million strong population of Viridian 4 from certain doom. The next year, in 2372, the Enterprise-E was launched to replace the D, and Picard and most of his crew were transferred to it. Picard served as captain of the Enterprise-E for most of the next decade, and during that time, he continued to play a vital role in Starfleet operations. In 2372, when the Borg launched a second assault on Earth, Picard and the Enterprise returned home against orders to assist in the defense. While Starfleet had feared that Picard's history as Locutus of Borg would be a liability, his experience actually helped him turn the tide of the battle, thwarting the Borg attack. Picard and the Enterprise went on to thwart the Borg Queen's subsequent attempts to alter human history by preventing first contact with the Vulcans. In 2375, during the Dominion War, Picard and the Enterprise stopped the sonar from displacing the Baku from their homeworld, and 4 years later, in 2379, Picard was even able to prevent a war between the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire. This mission pit Picard against a clone the Romulans had created of him, named Shinzon, who would stage a coup on Romulus with the support of the Remans. Traitor Shinzon had planned to use a Falaran radiation weapon to wipe out all life on Earth, cripple the Federation, and start a war, but his plans were complicated by the fact that his clone body was deteriorating, and he needed a blood transfusion from the actual Picard to survive. Shinzon lured Picard and the Enterprise-E to Romulus under the pretense of peace negotiations, planning to trap Picard, destroy the Enterprise, and then proceed to Earth. However, getting Picard involved was ultimately Shinzon's downfall, as Picard, with the help of Data, was able to foil Shinzon's plot and destroy his ship. 2 years later, in 2381, Picard finally accepted promotion to Admiral and relinquished command of the Enterprise. Years later, in 2401, he would briefly assume command of the repaired Enterprise-D in order to stop the remnants of the Borg from assimilating Earth. But apart from that, Picard's career as a starship captain kind of ended in 2401.
The first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth, whether it's scientific truth, or historical truth, or personal truth. It is the guiding principle on which Starfleet is based.
After Picard's promotion to Admiral in 2381, command of the Enterprise-E fell to Captain Worf, formerly a member of the Enterprise-D's senior staff, and sometimes on board the bridge of the Enterprise-E. Next to nothing is known about Worf's time in command, except for his role as in a yet undescribed incident that resulted in the E being destroyed or rendered inoperable circa 2386. Worf was later known to protest this incident, but it was not his fault.
And obviously, we can't use the Enterprise-E.
That was not my fault.
Prior to this being established in Star Trek Picard, however, Star Trek's expanded media provided quite a different account for the future of the Enterprise-E. This alternative history saw Picard remain in command of the Enterprise until 2385, following which command was transferred to Captain Data. Data had previously been killed during the conflict with Shinzon, but in this alternate timeline, he had been restored in the body of his android brother, B4, and was given command of the Enterprise. In this timeline, Data served as captain of the Enterprise-E for more than 20 years. He only stepped down after the E was decommissioned, or destroyed, in 2408, following a battle with species 8472 in fluidic space. Data was offered command of a new Odyssey-class Enterprise-F in this timeline, but he refused it. Also in this alternative timeline, the Odyssey-class Enterprise-F was launched in 2409 under the command of Captain Vakil Shon, an Andorian. Shon and most of his senior staff were transferred from the Defiant-class USS Belfast, which had been recently lost in combat. It was Data that suggests that he be given the F as a replacement. The Enterprise-F served Starfleet well under Shon's command. In Star Trek Online, it turned a wayward Dominion fleet away from Deep Space Nine in one of Shon's first missions, and it later participated in several battles of Species 8472. The Enterprise-F's ultimate fate in this timeline, and that of Captain Shon, is currently unknown. That's because it's still flying around in Star Trek Online. In canon, meanwhile, the Enterprise-F was launched much earlier, sometime after 2386. Nothing is known of its service until 2401, when the ship was scheduled for early decommissioning during Frontier Day. With the Frontier Day celebrations, the Enterprise was under the command of Fleet Admiral Elizabeth Shelby. It's unknown if Shelby was the ship's usual commanding officer, or if this is more of a one-time arrangement. In any event, the Enterprise-F was commandeered by the Borg during the ceremony, and Admiral Shelby was critically wounded. Fortunately, the Borg were defeated by the restored Enterprise-D, and the Enterprise-F was mothballed as planned shortly thereafter. Following the decommissioning of the Enterprise-F, the USS Titan A was rechristened as the USS Enterprise-G, and it was placed under the command of newly promoted Captain 7 of 9. The G story and the exploits of Captain 7 are, as of now, a mystery, but no doubt future generations of Star Trek stories will give us at least a little glimpse of the latest chapter of the Enterprise legacy. Oh, and we do know the Enterprise-J existed, but again, we know nothing about that or who actually commanded it in the canon of the Star Trek universe. So, get guessing. Okay, so all told, the name Enterprise had a long and storied history, one certain to persist through the future generations of the Star Trek universe. Of course, we're excited to see where the franchise takes the Enterprise legacy into the future. Again, the future is part of a journey. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. Don't forget, you can also support Trek Central on Patreon via the links in the video description. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.